So CAFOD stands for the Catholic Agency for Overseas Development. And what we're doing is, excuse me, in South Sudan, we're doing a combination of emergency sort of humanitarian response, particularly working with Sudanese refugees and South Sudanese returnees in the border area. Some of that is emergency food provision and shelter and non-food items like hygiene. And then we're also doing longer term development work on sustainable livelihoods, supporting sustainable livelihoods, but also on working to help build community livelihoods and funding. So like things like savings mechanisms. And also peace is a really important part of our work, so helping to set up peace committees. We don't do this directly, we work through local organisations and local NGOs who know the people, who know the communities. Very often they're church-based, not always, sometimes they're secular. And so there are thousands of people in England and Wales who take time to pray, to take political action, and also to give money to CAFOD to help support development and emergency response in many countries around the world, but including South Sudan. So I'm here to be able to visit the projects and to be able to also, when I get back to England and Wales, to tell some stories about just how brilliant South Sudan is and the importance of the need for peace, and to raise the profile a little bit. Both Sudan and South Sudan are just not on the media agenda at the moment, so it's really important that we're able to tell some stories.
Thank you. The current situation in South Sudan is a bit quite complex, and the need for emergency response has increased, not only internally, but due to the Sudan crisis. So if you cross to parts of Upper Nile, there is a growing influx of returnees and refugees into the country. These are stretches the humanitarian response in those areas. So the stories we are receiving are not quite good. People are suffering, and the little being provided by the humanitarian agencies is not doing enough to these Sudanese refugees and South Sudanese by themselves. So the stories are shocking, and to make matters worse, the communities are seeking for peace, okay? And due to the ongoing internal conflict that are happening across the country, every member of the community are calling for peace. And how to get peace now is the question, and this is what, as a country, we need to come into terms to.
Yeah, and let me get back to Christians. You visit South Sudan. What is your engagement with those in leadership to ensure that they can tackle the crisis or the situation facing the humanitarian access in this country?
We work as part of the NGO forum, seeking to sort of influence that, so working alongside all the other NGOs, so that's international as well as national organisations, and putting our voice alongside. It's really important for CAFOD that we work in collaboration and in solidarity with other people. We're part of a global movement, but we're trying to very much support what's happening locally. And it's for local organisations and national NGOs here in South Sudan to have their voices heard, not for us to do it for them. So we work with the NGO Forum. We do a lot of work with the church, with the Catholic Church, being the Caritas family. We're supporting the Bishops' Conference. We're supporting the South Sudanese Council of Churches, and of course we're supporting Caritas here nationally. So working at lots of different levels to be able to help bring about peace, as well as development, and as well as working at the diocesan level. So I've just come back from Malakal and Fashoda County to see the work of Catholic Diocese of Malakal and what they've been doing and how we've been supporting that.
It's good that you mentioned about Malakal. Many citizens in that part of the country has been facing the issue to do with floodings and also instability, the localized conflict. How did you respond to their need?
Well, working with Caritas Diocese of Malakal, we did like a bit of an assessment, really listening to what local people and the diocese office there, the diocesan Caritas office, told us. And a couple of things have been set up. Obviously, there's a humanitarian response that's needed for returnees and for internally displaced people and for refugees that are coming. That's food and non-food items like particularly soap and water to help tackle cholera. But also a really exciting kind of piece of work that we're doing is supporting sustainable agriculture through these things called floating gardens. As you know, if you plant seeds and plants in the ground and then there's a flood, you've just lost them. But what Caritas Malakal came up with was this idea of a floating garden. So they use like bamboo roots to create the sort of base, and on which they put the soil. It's all very carefully constructed, and the plants go in there. And of course, then when the flood comes, it rises. So the people are still able to continue to sort of grow their crops. They don't lose them. So it's being piloted. They're doing training with the local farmers, mostly women. And when I was there, they were just so excited to see me. There was lots of waves and ululations. It was great, but they were also very proud. This is what we're doing, and they were explaining to me how it works. So that's a real, for me, that's sustainability in action. They're not dependent on us, and it's the local church that's providing that sort of support. So those kind of tackling environmental and climate shocks are really important. But as we say, that trauma stuff is still there. So we don't work with just individual farmers, we work with them as a group. So coming together, they reflect on and strengthen one another, and sort of like it kind of helps to increase the binds and the connections between people.
So what hope do you see in their eyes when you met them about how they can rebuild their life?
Oh, there's a huge amount of hope, and the women were saying, yeah, we're really excited by this. And my mum was at this, I did this, you know. I mean, that's, you know, and actually standing up in front of a group of people saying, hello, I'm a woman and I'm the director of an organisation, and there's like massive cheers, you know, because they're sort of seeing, yes, women can do this. When you see it, you can be it, you know. So that's really important. So I see a lot of hope in that. I see a lot of almost a kind of like unwrapping of the potential, and that's possible as well because the diocese, the Caritas Diocese of Malakal, is there alongside them, offering them technical support and and that kind of deep faith report as well. Sister Elena, who is the director of Caritas Diocese of Malakal, is a woman of deep faith, and she's, you know, her parting words to me, standing on at the airport yesterday. She said, don't ever forget, you know, that Christ is at the centre of all that we do. And, you know, for me, it was like, yeah, it is. That's what we're here for. We're here to bring love, to show God's love, and to help people live those full lives that God wants for us. And we're working with other churches in England and in the UK in order to make sure that we act together in solidarity, bringing the voices and the concerns of South Sudan, putting that pressure on the British government to do what it can. Here in South Sudan, the team, of which Majok's one of our members, is working to support the church in a number of different levels. So at a local level, there will be work to support things like peace committees, you know, within communities. I met a group of people from a peace committee in Malakal just the other day, and hearing them talk about peace and what that means at the very local level is really powerful. Peace starts with each of us, doesn't it? And it sort of has to ripple out. But of course, peace needs structural change, and it needs real leadership. So we're then right at the other end of the spectrum, working with the Catholic Church and also the South Sudanese Council of Churches. And I know that SSCC are very active, they're very engaging with government. I think they have found over recent years, over the last few months in particular, some challenges from government. They're not hearing back from the president, even though they'd had some really good contact with him sort of up until that point. So again, that sort of urging of government leaders and the President to really open the door to listen to peace. The Bishops' Conference, the Catholic Bishops' Conference issued a statement, didn't they, in July, again they said it's time for peace, they're calling for peace. It's a really powerful message. So all of these voices that are calling for peace that we're supporting really do need to be listened to and heard. Capable, there's potential. There's often a view from sort of Western countries, partly, informed by colonialism, oh, well, that's Africa, there's no possibility. Africa's a growing continent, it's a young continent, the energy and the vibrancy is here, and that just needs to be channeled. The potential in this country is huge. I know there are challenges because of the oil question, obviously that's a big political challenge, and perhaps, international governments can help this South Sudan government to tackle that. The other issue that's really important that we as Caritas in the global family are tackling is the question of debt, unsustainable international debt. South Sudan is one of those countries that's in what's called debt distress, where they're paying to banks and to creditors more money than they receive in aid, more money than they actually spend on health and education systems. South Sudan has recently been sued by a bank, so that's a really unjust situation. And part of the global Caritas family is to take action on that. We've got a campaign calling from debt to hope, turn debt into hope, where we're working with countries right across the world to join that campaign to really tackle the unsustainable debts that exist. And that's very important in the UK because legislation can have a very significant impact. So there's thousands of people in England and Wales that are campaigning and that writing to their MPs to say, can you change this unjust system of debt so that countries like South Sudan can have more money, can have more opportunities,